Yeah, I'll just cover. Well, welcome everyone to the Revitalization Trust Fund meeting of December 16th, 2021. We are meeting remotely, and accordingly that the open meeting of the Revitalization Trust Fund is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. The order allows us to meet remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded and the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. That's basically how we get started. And I wanted first and foremost welcome Eric Valentino and Jessica. I'm going to see if I can get the name right. That's Savitsky.
That's Savitsky. Yep.
All right.
You got it.
It's
sort of phonetic, actually. It is phonetic. It's intimidating when you first look at it, but it actually is phonetic.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't make too much of a mess of it. So that's great. Yes, you guys are the new members of the Revitalization Trust Fund, and we tremendously welcome your help and bringing your background and insights and being Needham residents, and also just having a passion for being able to make things better in the world. So that's where we're at, and welcome. Why don't we start off for the committee? Why don't we start with you, Jessica, just to tell us a little bit about your background and what interests you in the Revitalization Trust Fund.
Sure. So my husband and I have lived in Needham since the year 2000. We lived in a house over near the Newman School for a few years, and then we moved into the house we're in now, which is on Tudor Road. I have two kids I have a daughter who just graduated from Needham High School in the spring. She's at Brandeis University now. And my son just started his freshman year at Needham High School. And and they've both been involved in a lot of, sports and theater programs and all kinds of things in the schools and in the town. And I guess I just feel like Needham's been good to us. So I was looking for a way to give back. And this just seemed like a really interesting endeavor. So I thought I would, give it a shot and see what I could contribute. I am a trust and estates attorney, so I may have some skills in that respect that might be helpful at some point as well. So I'm happy to help out in that way as well. And I also just think from a selfish perspective, I work alone. I'm a solo practitioner and I spend a lot of time alone. So I thought it would be nice to be part of a group again with a common goal. That's one of the few things I do miss about being in an office with other people. So I thought an effort like this would be enjoyable to be working with other people with a common goal. So
great, that's great. And also it's just it's also terrific that you've not only that you lived in the community for quite a while, and that you've had the experience of having a child go through Needham High and now be at Brandeis, which is a fantastic school, of course. And then now you've got another one who's entering into that really critical stage.
Yep.
So
I will say too, my daughter was telling me that someone she met at Brandeis lives in another suburb of Boston. I can't remember which one it was, but Rachel was explaining to her I'm from Needham, and she was kind of describing where it was. And her friend said, "Oh, that's the place with the statue with the children in the circle." That was how she remembered having been in Needham before, was the statue of the children in the circle. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I think that's great. And obviously, one of the things that we hope would be a connection for people is just it's basically the symbolism of the fact that we're basically all in this together. And, no matter what color we are, what background we are, what different ability we have, and that we are one humanity. That's really what that whole sculpture stands for, and being able to connect the hands to to the other elements of humanity and really be a part of it. That's the core of what we do. So that's wonderful that the message, that people connect with them. So Eric.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm actually kind of on the other end of the spectrum as far as family goes, my kids are 6 and 4. My son is 6, my daughter's 4. This is their last year at Temple Beth Shalom. We've been there for the last 5 years, and it's a phenomenal community. We live up on Lindbergh Ave, sort of behind Mitchell. So next year is going to be a huge jump for everyone, because he's going to first grade and she's going to kindergarten at Mitchell. So we're excited to start a new chapter of our lives in Needham and branch out and meet new families and meet new kids. So that's definitely exciting. I myself, born and raised in Wellesley. So this feels a lot like home, like it did when I was growing up. So I went through Wellesley Public Schools. I went to college and played college lacrosse at a high level. And then I actually moved out to Colorado for years and skied and sort of got that out of my system, and came back in 2005 and got my real estate license. And in 2007, we started our development firm. So been doing this for about 15 years now, in and around Boston Metro, but specifically really in Brookline. Most of our residential development takes place. And similar to Jessica, I sort of felt like it was time, and I had the desire to do something with the community and give back, and sort of just looking around and finding out what's going on. I mean, as you can see, I'm a big fan of art, all types of art, sculptures, paintings, murals, physical art, things like that. And just sort of wanting to help contribute to the overall feel of Needham itself. Like, we're out and about a lot, we're in the town a lot, and it's nice to see some of the little touches that you guys have left your mark so far, and excited to sort of maybe bring some new ideas, some new energy, some new connections to the table, and see where we can take this thing in the future.
I think it's great. And well, let's just say that from the sounds of what you both described, that I think you're in the right place, because that's really the mindset that we're really trying to be able to to connect everyone with, is this idea that art and and recognizing the value of the individuals throughout the town and the contributions they make and so on, is a very important part of really feeling like you're part of a community. And everything we do is basically designed around trying to be able to bring more of the feeling of Needham out into the visible community, so that when people come here, they get a real sense of what the community is about and what it cares about. So that's awesome. Why don't we also quickly now just do a introduction for the rest of the committee, so they can get to know, so you can get to know them. Mary Ruth, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, as soon as I unmute. Hi, I'm Mary Ruth Harris. I've been on the committee for how long, Paul? You think 10 years?
I'd say that's, yeah.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
I've lived in Needham for a very long time, been on lots of different, involved in very many groups. And I find this to be one of the more interesting things I've done in all of my volunteer activities in Needham. It's, seeing it grow, and seeing just driving through town. I often have people from out of town in my car driving through, and they'll just always comment on what a pretty town Needham is. And a lot of it, I think, is due to things that we've done. And it's pretty exciting to walk around and see it and have other people enjoy it.
That's great. Yeah. And Mary Ruth actually is just recently taken on being our basically communicator from the Revitalization Trust Fund for membership, for basically the call it membership, but basically it's if you're donors and supporters, that we're working on ways of being able to have a much more consistent rapport with them, so that we can keep them more informed about the new projects that we're doing, and to make sure that they know that we tremendously appreciate the support that they've given us in the past. So she's
I'm having
now-
a bit of a learning curve on the software.
yeah, no, I know.
I'm working on it, and we hope to have the newsletter out before the end of the month, and just it'll all be online, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people to look at it. So if you when you get it, please like it so that it spreads far and wide.
Yeah. So and that's one of the things that, just for the committee's understanding, is that when, even though we've been around for a long time, which is now pushing 22 years, I think, most of our donations in the past have always come in and they were all basically just mailing addresses. And only within the last few years, through the town system, did we actually, by a change in the town system, that we were able to actually start to capture email addresses. And of course, that's obviously critical to be able to reach people on a more frequent basis. So we're in the ramp up stage of being able to make the best use of that and to capture as many new emails into the system from interested parties that we can, and really start to connect in an even better way. So let's see, Carol, you want to go next?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes. Paul and Mary Ruth and I were the beginning of this whole 22-year-old NCRTF. And I and Mary Ruth both have known Paul for, oh my goodness, 30, 40 years since he's been in Needham. And I am in Needham and have had the pleasure of working with both Paul and Mary Ruth in different endeavors before we started this. And my background is I went to Colby College and I got a master's degree in social work, and wanted to start working when my youngest of 4 daughters was 11 years old. I wanted to find a part-time job and started working for Needham Business Association and did that for 20 years. And Paul was involved with that very much. So I knew him that way. Mary Ruth, I knew from other sources. So it's been a real pleasure to work with Paul. And he is certainly, I think our town is very lucky to have him. He puts a lot of effort into trying to find things that makes our town better and better for things.
Well, thank you, Carol, and it's absolutely true that we've been through 2 very, very wonderful adventures. One was the Business Association for a number of years, and then when I was starting the fund, the first person I called up was Carol and said, "So Carol, I got this idea for creating a fund that it would just be private donations, but we could revitalize the public spaces. And what do you think?" And we talked about it, and basically we continued on from that point. And then Mary Ruth came on board, and as Carol said, and has been with us for a very long time. I don't think Mary Ruth nor I actually, we'd have to go back and look at the records now because remember how long it's been.
It's definitely more than 10.
Yeah, it's definitely more than 10. So that's the thing. Well, time flies when you're having a good time. It's one of those things. So anyway, but Carol is awesome. She has had perspective, brought perspective to the things we do from a variety of different aspects. Not only the Business Association, but she does a lot of work with elder care and with the community center. Just you name it, and Carol has probably been involved in it over the years. So she brings wonderful perspective, and she records our notes, so we actually stay on documentation here. So that's great. Well, So Amy, I guess we can jump to you because we make it official as to you and what your role is within the group.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the economic development manager for the town. So in a nutshell, I'm basically the liaison to the business community, not only in areas of just sort of being present and reaching out to them and understanding what their ongoing needs are, especially the small businesses during the pandemic, but also making Needham a business-friendly environment. So taking a look at current regulations and licensing requirements and trying to understand if there's any obstacles that might be prohibiting people from opening businesses in Needham, trying to do outreach, recruiting new and different types of businesses. So sort of anything business related, I'm the first stop in the town of Needham before people go on to other departments. But yeah, I've been with the town now for about 15 months and have found it to be an incredibly welcoming and collaborative environment. So really glad to be part of this group.
Well, and one of the things that I think is so fortunate that we have Amy here is because she and I were actually had collaborated on, or I actually called her up to be able to learn from her in terms of the things that she had done for Dedham and Dedham Square. And actually, you know, a software package that we were going to be using to be able to create discoverneedham.com and that type of thing. And her insights, you know, over time were just, you know, incredibly aligned with the types of things that we, you know, were trying to work on. And then, you know, when we found out that she was going to come to Needham to be able to be our economic development manager, was like, yes. So. So it's just it's a great thing, and I know that, you know, the scope of what she gets involved in is incredibly broad, and but she handles it with grace, and anyway, and she connects with our committee as well as the Needham Arts and Culture Committee, and you know, we have projects that we do in cooperation with each other for and in conjunction with each other. And so, you know, we're sort of the two groups that tend to do the most that are visual in terms of public space, you know, enhancement. So thank you. And just for myself, I'm all good. I founded the committee back in 1999. With the purpose of being able to revitalize Needham's public spaces and bring more art into the public. And so that's basically what we've been doing. We've had enormous. Prior to that, I was on the board and president a few times of the Needham Business Association, and then helped merge the Business Association into the chamber. I should say back into the chamber after 42 or 3 years. And now it's the NBA is now the Needham Business Alliance within the chamber, which is a great organization headed by a person that I actually met. I'm guessing probably in '86 or '7. We moved here in 1985, and it was one of the main communication things there were. For the town was the Needham Times, and it just turns out that the gentleman who was he was the publisher and overseer basically of the Needham Times has now about what it must be 6 years now that he's now become the head of the chamber and has done fantastic things with the chamber. And I think that his contributions are throughout Needham now and throughout Newton. And now we've got now I think there are now 4 different chambers that have combined into the what is now the Charles River Chamber, and has now combined the forces of Wellesley. I believe it's Wellesley, Watertown, Newton, and Needham. Like, am I correct in that, Amy?
Yes, 2 W's and 2 N's.
Yeah. So we've got, you know, a lot of good people who are all connected to be able to do good things in this town, and you know, and we'll keep our focus on being able to do the things that we do within the, you know, different public spaces. So let's get on to the agenda now. Does anybody have any questions of anyone before we sort of move our way through the agenda? Okay. All right. So number one, we took care of because we've introduced everyone, so we're all good with that. From Needham to the World. The project, I'll give you a quick explanation of this since the new people don't really know anything about this project. That From Needham to the World is a project which is actually a rotating wall mural that will be on Chapel Street. On the side of there's a blank panel. If you walk down Chapel Street, there are 2 or 3 glass windows, and then there's a blank filled-in panel, which is a recess underneath their awning there. That is a solid panel, and within there, we have a fully approved project for what's called From Needham to the World. And what this rotating mural will do is it will actually give display a profile of a notable Needham person who's basically either grown up in Needham or has lived in Needham and then went out into the world and did something really amazing. And this project came out of conversations that I've had with Gloria Grice from the History Museum and Center, and some of these names have changed, and I still have to get used to saying them the proper way because they've expanded. She every time I talk to her, she goes, "Oh yeah, and you know, by the way, that so and so lived here and they did this." And I'm like, "Okay." And then another time I talk to her, and she'd list another person. I said, "You know, could you make a list of these people, because this is like, you know, a large number of people who've done all these things." And so we started to compile a list. We ended up with a list that was more than 50 people. And we said, you know, the town should know about this. You know, people who move in have no idea about the history of people who've gone out and done great things in the world. And most importantly, you know, the kids should know that where they're growing up is giving them an opportunity to really get a good foundation that can take them even to outer space. So that's you know, so that's the purpose of it. We've now fully funded the project. Heffernan and Associates, who are the landlords of the building, decided that they really wanted to be able to do this in memory of Mike Heffernan, who just passed away a year ago. And Mike was the first actual project donor that we had for the Revitalization Trust Fund. And he was responsible for the Once Upon a Time sculpture, which is the little girl and the little boy on the bench on the side of the common. And that was our first installed project back in 1999. And he and his family have been great supporters and wonderful landlords in the downtown. And they thought that one of the great things they could do is be able to help fund this project so that other people could learn about the other great things that could happen, you know, when they go out into the world, and the opportunities they have that the Heffernan family was so appreciative here in Needham. Now, they actually raised 8 children here in Needham. All of them went through the school systems, so they have a real connection to you know, to the valley. So this project right now, as I said, it's funded. We're in the process of pulling together the framework that will be attached to the panel there on Chapel Street. And we have previously done a almost full-size proof of the first profile, which would be Sunita Williams. And we figured that was appropriate when you're talking about From Needham to the World, or maybe From Needham to Outer Space. And the the idea is that about every 6 months, once this is installed, about every 6 months, a new profile will go up and rotate. And at the moment, based on the number of profiles that we have, that we could go 10 years with a new profile every 6 months, and still not run out of notable people. And that's not even including people like, very current people like Charlie Baker and some of those people. So anyway, that's where we're at with that project, and we're hoping within the next month that we will be able to put together. We'll have it physically installed, weather permitting, and kick it off for the new year.
What's the medium of that? Is it a sculpture? Is it a painting? Is it a photograph? Is it a photograph?
Good question. Yeah, it's basically it's a vinyl. It's an image and profile plaque which tells a story that is 10 feet wide, 5 feet tall, and is set into a frame, and it's produced on vinyl, so it's stretched into this frame, and so it's easily it's easily reproduced. We have a company right here in town that actually produces the vinyl of that size, and it's it enables it to have really brilliant color, and where this is positioned underneath the awning, that there really won't be any even degradation from UV. It'll be basically just a 6-month panel, and then we're hoping that either the library or some other institution in town may have an interest in being able to take the completed ones.
Sure.
And if not, we'll find other uses for it.
Mhm.
And I suppose at the end of maybe 10 or 15 years, we could just put them back in rotation.
Right.
But by that time, there'll be a whole nother group of people who have done great things. So we're sort of moving forward. But that's how it works. Any other questions on that project? Charles River cleanup update. One of the things that this is kind of an unusual project for us. One of our longtime supporters, who is actually lives down in the Charles River Street / conservation land area, had commented for several years that the trash was collecting along the side of the road, but there wasn't any facility to clean it up. And one of the things that he had tried, I guess, some different attempts to try to be able to find out what he could do about it. And eventually he came to me and said, "Hey, Paul, do you know how we could do this to be able to pick up trash and so on against the conservation land, because the residents will pick up their side, but when you get into these treat sections, that you have to kind of come up with some other way of doing it." So I went to the Karis Lustig, who's the director of the DPW, and asked her. I said, "Hey, so what do we have to be able to do this?" And she said, most of the time it's done by volunteer groups to be able to do that. So we've been discussing, ways of being able to do something with more consistency. We've reached out to another one of the town's organizations to see if they would be able to help us with this type of thing. And so it's still in process in terms of working out something that might be more of a long-term, consistent program to be able to address this. And as I said, this is sort of out of the normal scope of the Revitalization Trust Fund, but it is a public space, and so we wanted to look into it for that reason too. Just as a side note, that a couple of days ago, I just went out with a trash bag and picked up the trash that was along the side of the road, basically from where the bridge goes over backwards to about the 700 area of Charles River Street. and came out with a giant trash bag, took it away. So there's progress being made, and I certainly wanted to just know, how much work does it take to do this, and how bad is it really? And it's the kind of thing where if you had if you had just basically 2 or 3 hours with a group of people that could just walk the side, you could basically clean the area up pretty quickly. And maybe even less than time than that. I spent about an hour and a half total. That's including driving there, and which is only about 10 minutes outside of Newton Center. But it's run right along the edge, outside edges of Bridgetown. So anyway, so that's still in progress, but we have made some
Paul?
progress on it. Yep.
Do you think we might get, how you see groups adopting, do you think we might be able to find a group to adopt that section, to keep it clean?
Well, that's an idea. I mean, we can find out about how that would work.
Yeah. Because I mean, we see signs on the highways a lot about places that have been adopted by, like, I don't know, so one group or another. I mean, it seems like a perfect, project for like Boy Scouts or something like that. I mean, it just seems like that's usually, if you're going to get volunteers to do it, it's usually what you find is some group like that, or some, like, I think there's some groups that have to do some volunteer project for, either their some religious thing like a confirmation, or they have to do it for their junior year or something at the high school. There's all kinds of different groups that need to do volunteer things, and maybe someone that was a part of one of those groups could organize it, and as part of their service project, because I think the kids have to do service projects.
Well, and we know that there are some service projects that happen throughout town, usually annually, where they clean up either certain parking lots.
High Rock
Yeah.
gets cleaned up a lot.
Yeah.
There's a group called Humanics in Action that I actually participated in when I was in college, but I know they still do things to this nature all the time. I just don't know what areas they're in, but to your point, like they get together, multiple groups of people several times a year with like a list of like checklist items of places that they're going to start cleaning. So it sounds like you're going somewhere with that idea for sure.
Yeah, no, I'll actually I'll look into the humanics angle also, as well as as we talk to I talked to different people within the town about this, that we'll see if there's any groups that have normally taken on this kind of thing, and that once we get through this sort of initial startup of it, that it could be taken on as a consistent program. Because I think that's the thing that I think is most important, is that we just need to be able to have it attached to some place that will do this on their schedule, not just having to rally people every year to be able to come out to be able to do this, because all it takes is one person to not get it on the list one month or 1 year, and then it stops again. We're very much into trying to be able to do things that are sustaining. So if we can make the connection in some way to be able to, between the town and one of these groups, to be able to take that on as one of the things that they do, that would be certainly the goal. So thank you for the suggestion. That's great. Anyone else have any thoughts or ideas on this particular one? All righty. Well,
One thing tonight is a Needham stroll that the Women's Club is doing, and a lot of the businesses are staying open. I just wanted to mention it. It's from 6 to 8. I think they're collecting gift cards, and then there's a signature drink being provided at Latina at the end of it. But it's it's one of those projects that and I think the gift cards are going to the council. Just that's tonight. I have to run at 5 o'clock.
All right. Well, let's keep moving through. But thank you for that. That's great. Let's see. Updates on the community, on the Needham Council for Arts and Culture. Marcus couldn't be with us tonight. He is our grants person. But I got a call actually this afternoon, and from the cultural council, and they basically said they apologized that they weren't going to be able to give us a grant this year for the banners. They had 35 different applications for banners this time, so they were kind of overwhelmed with the number of people who want to ask for support. And they had a lot of, they had supported us last year for the band. And so it wasn't, necessarily unexpected that if they had some other unique projects that could help get off the ground, that might be, a good possibility. So, but they are, one of the things that they wanted to emphasize is the fact that they are very, very interested in, and of course we have been interested in being able to support each other in every way we can, and that there may be monies that they have through their own funds versus the Mass Cultural Council funds, which is what this was from, that might be able to support us in some of the other things that we're doing and some of the projects. So it's an ongoing thing. We have a great relationship with them, and we will continue to, to be able to work with them. And we've applied for, since we're on the grant, a grant from T-Mobile, which is a fairly substantial grant. We're looking to be able to see if we can get the art gallery project kicked off to be able to really get that underway. Just for the two new members, that the art gallery is basically, we have another approved project waiting for funding now, which is a outdoor art gallery, which will be on the left side of the rice barn, that white wall, that we've designed an outdoor art gallery that attaches to there. It will have a rotation of art that will be 5 different frames, picture frames basically. They're 3 feet by 5 feet in size. It'll have art gallery sort of styled lighting above each one of the frames. Each frame will have a section underneath it which tells about the artist and how to be able to reach them, as well as with a QR code that will take them to either the artist's website or a website that we can host that gives more information, and not only about the art itself, but also connects with the work of the Revitalization Trust. So we've also, once this particular project is $85,000 to be able to do all the initial work on it, but it will allow very affordably artists from the Needham community, because they will get first priority in terms of being able to be displayed, but also that artists from literally all over the world can display through this medium. Each frame, there's no electronics involved in this other than the lighting for the frames. We're using another printing technology that allows us to be able to print onto these rigid panels, which will be inserted into the frames. And they can be in full color and reproduce basically any high-res digital image from any type of medium. So whether you're a sculptor, a painter, you name the medium that you happen to work in art, that this gallery has the capability of being able to create a show for those types of things. So we're the frames themselves, that each frame is slated right at the moment, and hopefully the prices haven't changed too much with the pandemic, but basically it would be about $350 per frame, which will allow you to be able to display for 30 days in a location where there, based on the traffic studies, there are between 8,000 and 10,000 cars a day that drive past that wall. And that doesn't include the people who come in on the commuter rail or the people who are walking through the downtown constantly to go to the restaurants and the shops and so on. We also, the other piece of the puzzle is the fact that by having a variety of different artists advertising to their mailing lists to come see their art on the wall, Our hope is that we'll increase foot traffic in the downtown. It'll bring more people to the town to be able to see the art and then eat in the restaurants, shop in the stores, and enjoy the town common. So it's a multifaceted experience in terms of how it connects to the community, and we're very actively working on being able to get that funded. And as quick as we do, it will be installed. So the other project that we are working on right now, just to get people up to speed, is the Ridge Hill wall mural. That Ridge Hill wall mural is basically, if you go to where the Walgreens parking lot is, we have a fully approved project for the wall of that of the building that has Rockland Trust, and on the other side, Leahy Clinic down the other side, and basically that center section. It's about 60 feet wide and about 14 feet tall. And Seymour Levy, who's a photographer from Needham, he had during 2020, when he was socially distancing, he went out and actually took progress photos as Ridge Hill was coming into bloom, looking about every 2 weeks to be able to come up with the ideal photo that would have great depth of field and show all the greenery and the beauty of Ridge Hill. And he was successful. We now have a wonderful image that not only shows Ridge Hill, but based on photographs that were taken by another person from Needham named Susie. She, I can't remember her last name, but she's her whole focus, you'll see what I mean in a second, is high power lenses that can go in and focus in on animals in the wild. And so she spends a lot of time sitting outdoors waiting for animals to show up. But she's taken a whole series of photos that are now incorporated into the art itself in the mural, that are all taken of animals that actually exist in the Ridge Hill area. There's also a trail map and then a QR code, which will allow you to be able to scan and be able to get much more information about the trails and the history of Ridge Hill and so on. And that's all built into that wall mural. That's a $20,000 project that we're actively looking for funding for right now. And the landlord and the town have been very excited and supportive about this. And we're hoping that it will also spur people to recognize that Ridge Hill is actually there, since so many residents have probably never know. So many residents have never even been there, but that they would now be inspired to go out and take a walk and do some of the beautiful trails and also help support maintaining those trails. That's really one of the purposes of having 300 acres of conservation land in Needham, is to be able to take advantage of being able to enjoy the experience of nature. So let's see. We covered that. And the blue tree, there's a blue tree banner. Prior to this, there was a Needham Lights banner, which was a program that had been ongoing for a number of years, and it's transitioned basically, I think, into the hands of Amy now. And so we modified the banner, and now it's basically it still incorporates the beautiful blue tree and the little lanterns on the bottom, but it has Happy Holidays from the town of Needham, and we were able to get that up by December 1st. So that's now up as a permanent part of the rotation for the downtown. And in terms of sponsorship updates, one of the things that I've been doing is reaching out to a variety of people who are regular sponsors, to be able to obviously thank them for their contributions, and to be able to remind them of the projects that we have ongoing. A number of them, sometime between the 1st of December and the end of December, make their contributions at the year end. And so, we're hoping between that and some of the outreach we do in with the newsletter and other things that, that are donations that come in for supporters and sponsors throughout the community, that we will roll into 2022 with the funding that we need to be able to continue the banner and flag program. For the new people, since 2000, let's see, I think it's 2004, when we started the banner and flag program that operates throughout the whole town. It's all completely funded by the Revitalization Trust Fund. It has a budget or expense of about $11,000 a year. So one of the things we have to do is continually raise at least that amount of money, that in addition to whatever projects we do. But it's has two pieces. One piece is the called the Symbols of Pride program, and that is basically a program designed for to go through all the town to be able to show off Needham assets or Needham sponsored events. So New Year's Needham, hopefully next year we'll be able to have a New Year's Needham. Is part of that. The 4th of July, also we couldn't do this year, but they're a part of it. The library and other things that we have. Those are all part of that Symbols of Pride program. The 1711 banner, which is the one that shows the dome, that goes out through the whole town also. And we do the American flags that you see go up for each flag holiday. And we do that, in support from conjunction with the DFW. Actually, the Alex Prohodsky Flag Fund is the one that helps us fund that portion of things. And Alex was a member of the Revitalization Trust Fund a number of years ago, and when he passed away, he created this fund so that we can continue to be able to put up the American flags and put them out throughout all time. We replace about 50% of the American flags each year because of wind damage and other things. So it's it's a terrific program. Very much on keeping the flags always looking good, and but it's the other piece of the Symbols of Pride program. The last piece is called the Chapel Street Banner Showcase. It's designed specifically to be able to help nonprofits, other nonprofits, because the other one is part of that too. But other nonprofits, thank you, Buckley, to be able to have a place to be able to display banners that are at a much lower cost. So the Symbols of Pride program, there are 72 banners, 52 locations. So that the upfront cost to be able to do that is obviously fairly substantial. But we also take care of the storage and all of that as the whole locations go on. And the banners normally will last at least 5 years. We've had even longer experience with them still lasting and still looking good. So they get a good run out of the investment. And then they pay a sponsorship fee each year to be able to help us maintain the program. In the Chapel Street Banner Showcase, that basically they buy there are 2 cycles of 5. There are 10 poles that are displayed down Chapel Street. Every opposite pole is 1 cycle. On the left side of the pole is what's called the anchor banner, which is the Shop Dine Needham, which is on all 10. That's sponsored by the Chamber. Greg Riedman has been fantastic. I just realized I talked about him, but I didn't actually tell you his name. I was like, wait a minute. Greg Riedman is the person that I was talking about. So they sponsored those banners. And then other nonprofit organizations in the town have the opportunity to be able to display when they're doing events, or they want to be able to get greater visibility. So we have a number of those organizations that are participating in that program. They pay for the initial banners. They give them to us. We then get them installed. When we take them down, we give them back to them to store them. And then when their cycle comes up, if they sign up for the next year, which they basically just call me and say, hey, is this month open? We put it in the calendar. And when that comes along, I just send them a reminder call to say, hey, get your banners to the PSAB, which is the Public Service Administration Building on Dedham Ave, by this certain day, and then we'll go up for your cycle. And when they come down, we call them, they go down there and pick them up. And so it works very smoothly, very easily. And the cost for them is basically the cost of buying the banners plus a couple of spares. And it's $100 for the organization per cycle, meaning if they displayed a cycle twice during the year, which is the maximum any individual organization can do, that it's $100 each cycle. But for $100, and once the banners are expensed, that they can get a lot of great visibility for a number of years. So that's how those programs all work. I think I've caught you up to speed on all the current things, and I want to make sure we stay on time. But let me just ask you, now that we've dumped a whole lot of new information on you, do you have any questions or thoughts, or are there secret projects that you've been just pining away and wanting to tell us about that that you wanted to lay on us now, or or whatever?
I think those all sound great. I mean, I'm really impressed, actually. Really creative, really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing them come to life. The only thing I thought of, and it just kind of sprung to mind when you were talking about the rotating mural of, Needham residents that have gone on to do these interesting things. This is just kind of spinning around in my head. I think a lot of people who live in Needham don't necessarily know all the groups in Needham, the government groups and the volunteer groups and sort of what they do for the town. So I wonder if there might be, a similar idea at some point, some sort of display where people could sort of see some kind of visual representation of like what the garden club does and what the arts council does and what, all these different groups, because I think a lot of people, unless they're personally involved with it, they don't really know, and they don't really see it. And it might, bring some additional sort of appreciation for all the work that all those folks are doing to make Needham a great place. So I guess that popped to mind. But otherwise, everything else you've mentioned, I think sounds great.
Well, thanks. Actually, on that idea, one of the possibilities that we could do with that is we could actually poll the different organizations within the town and say, hey, if we put together a banner that basically for the Chapel Street cycle, that would have all of your different organizations arranged on it, so that when people are walking down the street, they can see, this is how the community is being served by all these organizations, and we come up with a clever way of being presented, right? But the fact is, I think it's a great idea to really create awareness to all that. In fact, I've been talking with one of the other groups, which is very active and have not previously done a banner on Chapel Street, and we're just in the initial conversations of it. But they're interested in being able to get on display because they realize that a lot of people don't realize how many things that they actually do in the community, and these services are available, and they don't even take advantage of them because they don't even know they're there. So I think that's a great thing. I made a note about that idea, and we can see where we can take that. And I'm sure working with Amy that we can come up with a connection between these different groups that could potentially put that in effect. So that's great. Thank you, Eric. Any last thoughts as we get ready to close out our meeting?
I don't have any last thoughts. Just kind of, this is exciting. It sounds like you guys already have your hands into some good projects, and it seems like there's interest from not just us, but other individuals in the town, to keep coming up with new and exciting stuff. So I think this is going to be a fun adventure.
That's great. Yeah, and the bottom line is that even though we sort of try to lead these projects, that the reality is that none of it would be happening if it weren't for the support of the community. I mean, you know, we've done almost 40 projects in public spaces throughout the town, and every one of them is funded by private funds. So it's basically, you know, it's the people of the town saying, you know, I want to be a part of making this town better, and I'm willing to support it. And I remember I had a conversation with a former select board member, John Bullion, back in 1999. And I was talking to him about the fund, and I said, so what do you think, John? And he goes, well, you know, Paul, I think it's a really good idea, but you know, there are a lot of good causes that people are donating to. So, you know, I hope you can find, you know, people who will donate. And, you know, here we are 22 years later with, you know, almost 40 projects done, ranging from, you know, the Circle of Peace to walkways to benches to, you know, banner program. So I guess the answer was, John, yeah, there are some people who are willing to help make this happen. And so, you know, we'll keep coming up with projects and trying to be able to do things that really make the town better. And, you know, as long as we have the support, it's a wonderful thing. So it's a tribute to the Needham community itself. Well, thank you all for joining us here, and we'll now bring the meeting to a conclusion. Unless Amy, do you have any final thoughts to be able to share? Or?
I don't.
All righty then. And we'll wrap up pretty close to being on time. So, this is the part that I still haven't got to yet. Basically, I am calling to be able to have the Revitalization Trust Fund meeting officially closed. Do I have a second? And we have to unmute this second.
I'll second.
All right, excellent. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are officially completed. Thank you very much, Amy, for all your help. And we will see you guys in January. And Carol will send you out a notice as to the exact date, so everything's clear and you can, you know, plan on it as we go forward. And thanks so much for making the effort to be able to get here on such short notice.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, happy holidays, happy new year.
Yes, happy holidays to all of you guys. Thank you.
Bye.